This is Anna, a tour guide in St. Petersburg, Russia. I hope this video will find you well and healthy. Today is wonderful sunny weather in the city, and I can feel the breath of spring in the air. By the way, do you know that in St. Petersburg, on average, there are only 65 sunny days per year? So none of the restrictions and requests can keep people stay at home in such a day. And this is a wonderful opportunity to show you one of the most beautiful panoramic view in the city. It opens from the place which is called Vasilievsky Island. This is the eastern tip of the largest among 42 islands on which the city is located. And it is called Spit because it looks like an arrow if you view it from above. And from here you can see the Neva River and its embankments and the famous drone bridges across the Neva and the main attractions of the city center. So let me show you them all one by one. And besides this very place, the Spit of Vasilievsky Island, which used to be the commercial port of St. Petersburg, starting from the very beginning of 18th century till almost the end of 19th century. So let's go. Well, here we are. And the first thing I want to talk about is this place with brown walls and gilded spired cathedral in the middle. This is a Peter and Paul fortress, which was laid on 27th of May in 1703. Now this is the city day. By order of Peter I, the Tsar, later known as Peter the Great, in course of the Northern War with Sweden to protect the newly conquered lands. So the fortress was named first as St. Petersburg in German manner, which translated as the city of St. Peter. And later, when the cathedral was finished and consecrated into the honor of St. Peter and Paul, the fortress itself gained its name, Peter and Paul Fortress. But the city, which grew and lived outside the fortress walls, already was known as St. Petersburg. Well, the cathedral, St. Peter and Paul Cathedral, after it was finished, became the burial place of Russian emperors and empresses, starting from Peter I himself and ending by last Russian Tsars Nicholas II and his wife Alexandra. By the way, their remains were buried here only in 1998, after the Soviet Union collapsed, 80 years after their execution by Bolsheviks in the basement of one of the houses in Petersburg city. Well, before the TV tower, which also can be seen from here, was built in 1970s, the building of the cathedral was the tallest in the city, 122.5 meters or 400 feet. Well, what else can we see from here? This is the Neva River, its widest place, if not count the place where it flows into the Gulf of Finland. The river starts from the Ladoga Lake, the biggest in Europe, and its length is about 74 kilometers. It is navigable, and that's why it was the part of the important Asian trade route, which was called from Baltics to Greece. And these lands on the banks of the river were under the Moscovian kingdom in 16th century before they were conquered by Sweden. Therefore, Peter I in 1700 started the Northern War to gain again the outlet to the Baltic Sea to trade with European countries. So, because of the navigation, the bridges across the Neva are open during the night from spring to autumn, to let the commercial ships to go under them. There are 9 bridges across the Neva which are drawn at night. Only 2 modern bridges are not drawn because they are high enough to let the commercial ships under them. And on this side you can see the huge building of the Winter Palace. This is an entrance from the side of the embankment. In previous video we already seen the main entrance from the side of the Palace Square. So now this is a part of the Hermitage Museum, and besides 3 more buildings along the embankment. So the first collection of art, which was brought from abroad by order of Catherine II, displayed in this small building, where also the pavilion for private dinners and parties was located. That's why it was called Hermitage, which means the place of loneliness. Then the collection grew and the bigger building was constructed. It was named Big Hermitage, and the previous one was called Small Hermitage. So, and the Hermitage Theatre was aimed for the very inner circle of the Empress Catherine II, the ministers, the members of the family, and the courtiers invited for the performances. So now this is all buildings are the huge Hermitage complex. And what can we see in this particular place on the spit of Vasilievsky Island? As I've mentioned earlier, this used to be the commercial port. That's why all the buildings are connected to this sphere. So the main building, the biggest one, this white, looking like the Greece temple, this used to be the stock exchange building. And 2 buildings on both sides of the stock exchange used to be the warehouses where goods were stored. So the next building with this red dome used to be the customs house. So now all these buildings are occupied by the museums. So the red dome building is a Pushkin Literature Museum. The next one is the Museum of Soil and Plant. This yellow building is a zoological museum of Russian Academy of Science, and the main white big building is the branch of the Hermitage Museum. It is under the restoration now. Another 2 objects on the square connected to the port time. These 2 columns, red columns, this is the one and this is the second. So these columns used to be the lighthouses or beacons, showing the way for the ships entering the Neva River from the Gulf of Finland. You can see they are topped by these jars which were filled with tar set on fire. Later they provided gas to lit it up. So these columns are called rostral columns. They were designed as the imitation of the ancient Roman columns, which were decorated with these elements looking like the prows of ships. So Romans, they called these prows rostrum. So that's why rostral columns. They erected these columns to commemorate the naval victories, and according to their tradition, they cut off the prows of the enemy's ships defeated. So that's why the columns were decorated with these rostrums. So the rostral columns. And today they also lit up during the city and national celebrations such as New Year and Christmas and the City Day. Scarlet Sails, which is the grandiose festival of the graduates. And even when our football team is playing on their home stadium, Zenith, they also lit it up. So that is the spit of Vasilievsky Island. Well, the dream of the founder of St. Petersburg, Peter I, was to gain the outlet to Baltic Sea, to trade with European countries. And his dream came true, because the port industry is still one of the main industries, foundations of the economy of the city in St. Petersburg. And besides, his dream to make the city paradise, to make people come here to view these beautiful panoramas, also came true. Now we have the huge passenger port for the big cruise liners on the opposite side of the Vasilievsky Island, so millions of people come every year. Well, I hope you have enjoyed this video as well. Thank you for watching, take care and bye!